It's kind of like riding a roller coaster or something that gives them a thrill, and they're in control of it, but they're really not.
You're racing the best of the best, and it's so competitive, and it's so easy to get in this sport and have self-doubt.
I just think this is the kind of thing that could be a moment when we point back at the season. The
Absolutely.
3 wins are huge,
Absolutely.
but it's the little things
Yep.
that are the difference between championship and not championship. Welcome into the Backstretch. I am News 5's Heather Williams. And how about Josh Berry? How could you not be excited to see Josh Berry in victory lane? NASCAR, tweeted out, your favorite driver is excited about Josh Berry. And the reason is pretty simple. I mean, he has an amazing story. He is the dream for every kid running iRacing in his basement right now, working hard and gutting it out, trying to find a place in the sport. Because that's where he started from. I mean, we talk a lot about William Byron and his iRacing and some of the other guys. Josh Berry is the quintessential iRacing success story. Running iRacing, races against Dale Jr., Jr. offers to let him run his late model, run this late model, wins a national championship in the late model, gets a few one-offs in the Xfinity Series, part-time for a season, makes the most of that, parlays that into a full-time ride in the Xfinity Series, and the legend is born. Seeing him in victory lane was great, too. He's from Tennessee, too. I remember interviewing Josh when he ran the U.S. Short Track Nationals here in Bristol. And I was amazed by his story then. And he'd only run one Xfinity race at the time and was running late models for Dale Jr., discovered off of iRacing. But what's also cool is that he got his success at a time in his life that's considered late these days for racing, right? Kids coming in, you got Connor Zilic and William Sawalich, just barely 18 out there running around. Heck, he got his initial chance because he was running the first part of the season for a driver who wasn't going to turn 18 until several weeks into the season. So Josh was going to run that first part of the season, and then this kid was going to take over the ride for him. And Josh basically established himself to the point where they found a full-time ride for him and kind of he didn't push the kid aside. The kid still raced, but he just, every opportunity that he had, he took advantage of. And I just find that incredible. It's so awesome. It's that we're in March Madness right now, that one shining moment, your chance to be a Cinderella story. Josh Berry is that Cinderella story. He got March Madness kicked off a week early. And it's not like he hasn't run well all year. It's not like Josh was, Derek Cope at the Daytona 500 or Harrison Burton last year at Daytona in the fall. And no disrespect to Harrison, he's a great racer, in the Cup Series too soon. He's doing much better in Xfinity. He needs a little more seasoning. He'll be in a better position when he comes back. But Josh and the 21 team has showed up with speed and showed up ready to go and right at the front. Even if the finishes didn't always show it, you could tell that was one of the top teams every week, straight off the truck. So excited for him. And I'm so excited that he is our guest this week. We had Josh a couple of weeks ago. So even though we just had him coming off a win, come on, you got to have the winner on the podcast, right? So Josh will be back to talk about what a crazy week it's been for him. And it's been pretty crazy. One of the other things that I want to talk about, and we're going to get into this with Chris, is Christopher Bell's streak obviously got ended by Josh winning 3 in a row. Amazing, whatever. But for me, that wasn't the headline for Christopher. The heads-up move by Adam Stevens and by Christopher, when he had that loose lug, Adam to say, hey, find the pit, find a pit, for Christopher to be able to find the 19th pit, get in there, get that lug nut tightened up, and only have to go to the tail end of the longest line as opposed to losing laps, losing crew members going forward. So smart. Just, those are the kind of things, those little moments that eventually will be huge moments if Christopher goes on and wins the championship. So What an unbelievable moment. We're going to talk about that with Chris. We will, of course, talk about Josh Berry with Chris. And we will also look forward to this week's race back on the East Coast, down in Miami at Homestead Miami Speedway. Everybody's first or second favorite intermediate track. I think these days people either like Kansas or Homestead, 1, 2, all the intermediates are just really entertaining. But I think those are the two that really stick out to most of the drivers on the schedule right now as being the most fun, the most entertaining racing being produced. It'd be interesting to see how this race runs being in the spring as opposed to being in the fall. It's been late in the year, in the fall for a long time. Kyle Larson talked about this on his media call with the media this week. I mean, the weather in Miami's basically always the same. So I don't know that weather will necessarily be a factor, weather. But when we talked to William Byron at the test at Charlotte on Tuesday, one of the things that William talked about is the situation. The pressure is different, right? This is no longer a semifinal race. This is no longer if you're a playoff driver, you need to win this race. It's second to last chance to get into the championship four. It doesn't have that mindset anymore. It's just another race. Like, you could just be a little bit more free, there's less nerves. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how drivers respond to that. Lots to get to. It is an exciting week. Let's just get it going.
Joining us now is our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who's also the crew chief of the number 75 Food Country truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. Chris, I know you're an old school racing soul, and I love a good March Madness Cinderella. Last week's race winner at Las Vegas had something for both of us. So let's talk about Josh Berry getting the Wood brothers back to victory lane with a win in Las Vegas.
Very, very popular. I think it's an understatement. A very popular victory amongst the whole racing family, meaning spectators, competitors, owners, other drivers, older people like myself that are either still in the sport or not still in the sport. The Wood brothers are the pinnacle of people.
They're the OGs.
They are. I mean, they were ultra successful, and their character is impeccable. The whole family, and you know, in racing, it's kind of sometimes a little bit of a tough sport on people, on personalities, on characters and stuff, and it's really hard to find anybody who doesn't have, you know, at least a few people who just have animosity toward them, you know, who say bad things about it. It's hard to find anybody who doesn't have some enemies in this sport. The Wood brothers are one that don't have any enemies. They just don't. You don't find anybody who has anything but good things to say about Wood brothers, you know, from whenever they started, probably back in the early 70s or late 60s, somewhere in there, to now. Eddie Wood is the guy that I'm closest to. He's a good friend of mine. He and his brother Lynn, they have a sister. Just always pleasant to talk to, always helpful, always, you know, building you up whenever he talks to you. And, you know, everybody's happy to see the Wood brothers win, because they are some of those people who helped make this sport. They built it, they made it survive, and they made it go forward. They made it succeed, and they made it get better, and they're still there. And, you know, it's just a great thing. Everybody's happy whenever the Wood brothers do well, and winning a race at Las Vegas for them was huge. Josh Berry, on the other hand, is a driver who many race fans connect to because of his background. He's not a guy that's come along with a lot of family money. Now, I don't know the man very well. I don't know his personal stuff or whatever. Don't claim to. But he's a very good race car driver, and he's won a lot of races in the late model type racing, what people call the grassroots type racing. He drove for Dale Jr.'s late model team for several years, won a lot of races, had a lot of success, came on, built on that, and people hired him, gave him opportunities, and now he's got the best opportunities had.
Dale Jr. discovered him on iRacing. He was working as a bank teller at the time. And
that's pretty cool.
And he just wanted to be like the Bubba Pollard of the short track world.
Right.
For him to become a Cup Series winner at age 33 or 34, after being a rookie at 32, 33, it's a heck of a story. Doesn't happen very much anymore.
You know, it kind of reminds me a little bit that the way this is unfolded, it reminds me of the Harry Gant story. Because he ran late model sportsman stuff. That's what it was called at that time, which is now the Xfinity Series. Okay, but he ran Hickory and Kingsport and Nashville Fairgrounds and South Boston and all these places across, went all the way up north, ran for the national championship, competed in and won tons of races. And I don't think he actually competed in the Cup Series full-time till he was 41. I believe I'm correct about that.
So he makes Barry look like a spring chicken.
Well, and that's true, but Josh coming along and winning, you know, being first full-time ride last year and this year in his, you know, early to mid-30s is kind of unheard of right now, because most of the time, by the time you're in your 30s, you know, they're wanting to make you retired.
Well, and Josh's big break in the Xfinity Series came because he was running the first part of the season for, I believe it was Sam Mayer, because Mayer hadn't turned 18 yet.
I believe you're correct.
And
Yep.
so it wasn't even like this was supposed to happen, but he took those small bit of races that he had in the Xfinity Series, won a bunch of them. Junior ended up having to find a full-time ride for him because he was eligible for the playoffs, and every time he's had a chance, he's taken advantage of it.
He's cashed in. You know, that's the mark of, to me, a true champion, a true winner, a true person who can claim success is when that opportunity comes, when their chance to step through the door or go into the batter's box and swing at a pitch, get their chance to hit, they make the best of it. They somehow or another find a way to have success. And he took the Wood Brothers ride over the winter, replacing Harrison Burton, who won a race last year at Daytona, we'll say. But, you know, people, I think, expected good things, but he's already won a race, and we hadn't even got all the popcorn popped yet to get started. So, you know, everybody's happy this week about that. And I think they will build on this, because I think that Josh Berry is the top driver, that his knowledge of race cars and mechanics and the mechanical side of race car, not mechanics, but also the chassis setup part of it, suspension, tires, and all the things that go into making those cars drive right, drive the way that he wants them to, so he can use the gas more than he can use the brake. That's what it all comes down to, and can go faster than everybody else for 500 miles or 500 laps or a long race. I think he will be very productive on that part in helping their people. And I know he was, you know, you could hear him after the race. He was giving his team, his crew chief, the people that he was giving them a lot of kudos. So that's going to be good for the mix and everything. So I don't know. I think you can expect more good things out of this team, and we'll see what happens. You know, we got Martinsville coming up pretty soon. He's a short track ace. Yeah. You know, he's got a lot of short track laps, albeit mostly in late model cars, but still, somewhere along the line, he's going to be able to apply some of that experience and some of that knowledge and the confidence, and it'll show up on short tracks with Cup cars.
Yeah, for sure. He's really good at Bristol too.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I have been waiting to ask you this question.
Okay.
Christopher Bell, I just love this from a crew chief's perspective. Christopher Bell had a loose wheel on a pit stop, and his crew chief, Adam Stevens, has the presence of mind to tell him to find a teammate's pit stall, which he does. The 19 car tightens the loose lug nut, and so he kind of saves himself from going laps down, getting penalized, all that kind of stuff. From a crew chief's perspective, how hard was that to do on the fly? And is this that kind of moment that looks like it could be at the end of the season, like a moment that leads to a championship?
I'll be honest with you. I watched it and saw it, and I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. And to me, what jumps out now at that is a guy that, you know, and this is what to me makes a successful crew chief. It's kind of the same thing as to me, a really good quarterback, or I don't know, I'm not going to try to analyze too much on that, but what he did, what that was he took what was turning out to be an incredibly bad situation. It was fixing to be catastrophic because they were fixing to drive out on the track at Las Vegas, and then a wheel may have come off, and that's penalties and points and money and people crew members out the door and all this stuff, you know, plus embarrassment. Plus you're probably going to wreck and tear your car up, and your driver's probably going to go brain frazzled and all that, and it's just going to lead to, you know, it's just not, there's nothing good going to come out of it. And he had the presence of mind of thinking, okay, how can we make this better? Oh, we got a teammate down there. They've got an air wrench. Pull in, find that 19 and pull in, and they'll tighten the thing up for you. And at least, some of those things I just mentioned, maybe we won't get anybody hurt. Maybe the car won't get tore up because the wheel won't come off. NASCAR's probably not going to like it, I guess, but it's going to be better than putting somebody in danger. And they've
well, the
got
only penalty he got was pitting outside the box. That's it. Which is tailing the longest line, as opposed to multiple laps down, maybe tore it up, all those things that you just mentioned.
So it's almost, to me, it's almost like maybe a sergeant or a lieutenant or something who's in charge of a company of soldiers that find themselves surrounded by the enemy, and the only thing they can really see in front of them is bleak, like, oh boy, we're either going to be prisoners of war or we're going to be shot and killed. And they think of some way to get out of that. They think of some way to sneak through a line.
But how much time did he have to make that decision?
I mean, a couple of seconds or something. I mean, it could have been like 1,001, 1,002, and you got to, and he had to have, you know, to me, and I find myself doing this a little bit, is sometimes thinking just out of the box and saying, okay, if this would happen, what would I do? I mean, it's kind of like sitting at your house and thinking, okay, if all of a sudden my house catches on fire and I've got flames all around me, what am I going to do? Now, that seems a little crazy, but there might be a time where it'd be the most important thing you've ever done.
Right.
So to me, I think there are, race teams are getting pretty creative nowadays about talking through every situation. And there's probably now there's going to be discussions, maybe every race week or something, when they sit down and they have their round table of crew chiefs and team managers and drivers and spotters and everybody, and talk through, okay, what's going to happen if? What's going to happen if this week, if this happens or that happens or whatever? How can we react to this and come out with the best outcome? Well, I guarantee you this won't be the last time this happens.
I mean, I just thought it was brilliant, and not just from him, but then Christopher was talking about he didn't have any idea where the 19 car was pitted, and for him to be able to, while he's driving, while he's trying to slow down and get over and avoid all the traffic on there, to find the 19 pit and pull in there. I mean, I just think this is the kind of thing that could be a moment when we point back at the season. The 3 wins are huge, but it's the little things that are the difference between championship and not championship.
Absolutely, because this could have been an absolute catastrophic day. Dead last, tear your car up, penalties, crew members ejected for 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it is, points, all this stuff that are nothing but negative come out of the day. And they saved that. Now, they didn't win the race or they didn't get a great finish, but they saved that from being catastrophic, pulled it in and said, okay, let's do a quick fix right here. And you're brilliant is the perfect word. I mean, I don't know if they give bonuses out for bad days, but this could be, you might be at the end of this season, we might be talking back to say, hey, you remember at Las Vegas when they had the wheel loose? And instead of all this catastrophic stuff happening, they pulled in, they got their teammate to tighten the wheel up, they went on about their day. They got a minor penalty, they didn't even lose a lap. Big deal.
Last year's regular season championship came down to 1 point. 1 point.
That's not much.
Those are bonus points in the playoffs. So
that's not much.
That's why doing this is just, I mean, it just could be a huge difference.
I mean, their team is on a roll, even when they have a bad day, they make it better.
Gosh, that's when you know
And
you're good.
Yeah, well, that's the power. That's kind of, you've heard the power of positive thinking. They're thinking like champions. They're thinking, not just thinking like winners. They are now thinking like champions. What all do we have to do? Let's don't leave anything out that we need to do to be able to win this championship. So, to me, right now, they're the odds-on favorites. This may change. It's a long race season. Long race season. So, you know, but they've got a good start to it, and I think they're, you know, it's pretty obvious that their mental focus is there.
Yeah.
It's there, and I don't think it's going to fade.
So this week, NASCAR heads to Homestead. What makes this intermediate track so special to drivers that they love it as much as they do?
Tires wear out, so they don't really wear off. It's not like they wear out and there's nothing left. They just slow down so much. The speed goes out of the tires, the grip, so quickly. And as they go on, it slows down more and more and more and more on this racetrack. It always has. And, you know, the drivers like that because they get a few laps of, here I go, man. I got these grippy, man. I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to cut some lap speed, passing cars that haven't changed tires and so on and so forth. And then it just starts, and it starts slowing down, and you slide a little bit more. Now the back end slide, now the front end slide, and you go. And now you're running way up there against the guardrail. And most of those guys like that. They just think it's cool. It's kind of like riding a roller coaster or something that gives them a thrill, and they're in control of it, but they're really not. And I think the drivers just like that because it tests their skill, and it's a skill that they like to have. They like to have pride about the car control. It's almost like driving dirt or driving on ice or driving something. It's something that not everybody can do, and it tests their skill, and they enjoy that. And it's, you know, to me as a crew chief, I kind of like it too because it tests our skill as crew chiefs, race engineers involved, and so on, to work with the driver to try to make that car to where, or truck or whatever you're working on, can be as fast as possible, even on those used tires, even on those old tires that don't have any grip left in them. You still want to be the best one out there in the worst circumstances. It's kind of a pride thing. So I think they love it. Most guys love running there, and it's usually a very interesting race because you do have that whole situation going on throughout the race. You get different sets of teams, drivers, whoever, whatever, on different pit strategies. Like they'll say, okay, we're going to go so many laps on a set of tires, and we're going to come in and change whether it's green, caution, or whatever. Well, that's what we're going to do. And other guys are like, okay, well, no, we're going to go a little further. We're going to try to cut out a pit stop throughout this race. We're going to make one less pit stop than the other guys are, and we're going to make up our time that way. Even though we're going to be running some laps slower than they are each run, we're going to cut out a pit stop. We're going to end up ahead at the end of the deal. Sometimes it works both ways, one way or the other way. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a competitive race. I think it'll be an exciting race, and the thing about it is sometimes it's hard to keep up with because you don't know who all's on these different strategies, and you don't know when the caution's going to come out to make somebody's strategy great and ruin somebody else's strategy.
What has the week been like for you? I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's been a busy week. Obviously, there's been a lot going on, but just really, really fun. Obviously, winning in the Cup Series is such a big deal and such a huge accomplishment, right? So we've been busy, but trying to soak that in as much as we can. And yeah, it's just been an awesome week, honestly. Just a great race on Sunday.
So obviously, when you went to the Wood Brothers, you expected to get here eventually, but did you guys expect to get to victory lane so quickly?
No, I don't think so. Obviously we had, really our goals for, I'm not a huge goal setter as a driver, right? Because I feel like it's so hard to judge. The best thing you can judge yourself off of is just how your performance, right? Like sometimes your finishes don't really add up with how you run, and vice versa. Sometimes you finish better than you ran, and vice versa. But, obviously a huge goal for the majority of the garage is to make the playoffs. And in the same sentence, if you're planning on making the playoffs, you're probably going to have to win a race, unless you're going to be, one of the top couple cars in points. So So really, that's we kind of knew that's what we were up against going into this, but really, you take the start of the year, and we've ran 5 races. We've been in contention for 3 of them, right? Great run in Atlanta, great run at Phoenix, and then obviously Las Vegas. So had a lot of positive momentum going, and really the biggest thing is we had a great car on Sunday. We were fast, and the strategy and things. We had the right strategy. We were in position. We were able to capitalize, and that's how you win in this deal.
I was going to follow it up, and I'm glad you talked about the way you guys have run. I mean, you had to feel though that you were building towards success, right? I mean, you guys have been fast all year.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think even going back to starting at the Clash, I thought we had a, definitely not a perfect Clash by any means, but we were really competitive. Was able to transfer into the race, and then you go to Daytona, we qualify really well. Unfortunately, got in an accident there, but kind of each week, it seems like that we've had good cars and we've been fast, and um, I think for me personally, I didn't really have, although I have won at Las Vegas twice in the Xfinity Series, I don't think that it's one that I necessarily had circled as a really great opportunity for us to go win. For me, my mind was more of like a Martinsville or a Richmond, Darlington, places like that I've, had some good results already in the next gen car. But to accomplish that at Las Vegas, like I said, it exceeded our expectations. I mean, that's the biggest thing is we're exceeding our own expectations at this point, which is a good thing.
As a guy who's a short track racer, I kind of, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but you seem like a guy who's really like an old school kind of guy. Winning for the Wood brothers just has to be so cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's they're we've said it time and time again, right? Like they've given so much to this sport. 75 years, we're in their 75th year, right? And the kicking off that was really exciting for them, and there's been a lot of work put in that going into their 75th year. So to back that up with performance is just awesome, right? Like that's what you want, right? And it just makes it that much more meaningful. And obviously they're great people and they've done so much for the sport, like I said, that you just want to go run well for them, and to put them into this and put them into victory lane this early in this opportunity for me is a huge deal. And we're just all of us are just enjoying this moment, right? And we're just trying to keep our eyes forward, that we feel like there's going to be a lot more days like Sunday coming for us. We feel like we're in a great spot, and we're just trying to just keep the ball moving.
Couple more questions for you personally to have come this far. I mean, right, your story, we've talked about it a million times. It's well documented. You did not have a normal path to the Cup Series. To get to this point, to get a win, to now be in the playoffs, how personally gratifying is that for you?
Yeah, it's a big deal. I think the cup racing is extremely difficult, right? And you're racing the best of the best, and it's so competitive, and it's so easy to get in this sport and have self-doubt about, can I win? Am I going to win? Right? Like, is that day coming? Am I closer to that day rather than farther away from, and so to go out there and to win is it's such a cool feeling, right? And, for me, I think I've been very fortunate to have some, amazing people in my corner for a long time, right? I mean, just there's a countless list of people that I have drove for or that have helped me along the way in some form or fashion. And, going out and having these results, means a lot to them too. And that's the biggest thing that's gratifying to me is obviously it's a big deal to win a race, but I think we all, a lot of people felt like that this day was coming for me, and I'm just thankful that it finally did.
So you mentioned the goal is to make the playoffs. You've got the win. You've done that. So what's next? How do you approach the rest of the year? Because I'm guessing, and you kind of mentioned, we didn't expect this to come this early. So how do you approach the rest of the year now?
Yeah, I think, we continue doing what we're doing, honestly. I know it's a boring answer in a way, but I feel like we're doing a lot of great things as a team. I think this gives us it takes a little weight off our shoulders, right? That we're in the playoffs. That's a big deal. That's obviously something to really look forward to in later in the season. But I think it gives us opportunity to take this race by race and continue to work with each other and learn and bring fast race cars and try to execute these races better and better. And, hopefully just continue to just become more and more consistent throughout the year, right? That's what's going to take once we get to the playoffs. We're going to have to be, scoring stage points, and we're going to have to be fast and qualifying well and doing all the things we're doing right now to advance through a round or two of the playoffs, right? Like, so the biggest thing for us, I think, is just to continue to build towards that. We've got some things we need to clean up on pit road. We've had some mistakes the last couple weeks that thankfully we were able to rebound from. So we got to keep working with those guys and keep keeping them pumped up because they're a great group, and just slowly start building. I think that's the biggest thing.
For my final thought, I want to talk about the topic that just doesn't seem to want to go away, and that is who can drive in a Cup Series race. I don't even know where to start with this. Yes, there should be standards. Yes, you should have to prove that you can meet a certain standard to run with drivers. Yes, the standards should be different at Phoenix, Daytona, Kansas, Darlington. Yes, all of those, all of the above. But I guess the thing that's just kind of bothering me at the core of this is that I don't want to get in the minutia of who should get cleared. This is NASCAR Sandbox. They can really clear whoever they want. I don't think they're going to put someone on the track in a Cup Series race that's going to be a danger to themselves or to others. They have certainly turned people down to run in Cup Series races. People may not always agree with it, especially if a very popular person gets turned down and somebody who's not as popular gets in. The disagreement among fans is always going to be there. But what bothers me a little bit about the discourse of this particular conversation is, for all the fans that are always clamoring and wishing and hoping for old school NASCAR, right? We want the old school NASCAR back. We want to go to Rockingham and North Wilkesboro and Darlington, and we want it to be like it was with Cale and the King and Earnhardt ran. The very premise of NASCAR in its core back in the day, back in the old school days, was if you got a car, you can pay the entry fee and you can drive that car, you get your shot. It used to be an open access point for a lot more people to be able to go out there and prove themselves against other top drivers. And so for NASCAR to act like an F1 driver or a super late models, supercars driver or a IMSA driver or an IndyCar driver doesn't meet that standard, it just seems antithetical to what NASCAR was founded on. It was, come on, bring your car, bring your stock car, and let's see if you can drive. And so, yes, as I said at the beginning, especially in today's NASCAR and how much more advanced these cars are and how much more difficult it is and how much faster we're going, all those things. Yes, there does need to be standards on who gets on the track. But this idea that NASCAR fans feel like some drivers in other series are not worthy of being in this series, it bothers me because that goes against what this series was in the good old days that fans always seem to be clamoring for. So that's just how I feel about it. I don't want to make judgment on whether or not Catherine Legg should have driven or Elio should have driven that. I've already kind of given my opinion on that, but at the end of the day, I don't really know because I don't know what it takes to drive one of those cars in a race. So NASCAR really is the one that needs to make that decision. But I think we should let them make that decision and then let the sport be what it's always been, which is come and test your wits against the best. Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch. We'll see you next week.